Welcome to the Expona Audio Insider Podcast. My name is Lenny Florentine. I am joined today from Silent Angel, Eric Huang. What's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing good.
I'm so excited because, a lot of times when I do these podcasts, I have a lot of knowledge about the brand and about, the products. And this one I don't, but when I looked up everything about Silent Angel, it looks like a product that I'd be very, very interested in. There's a lot of really cool stuff from, you start with like power supplies and network and streamers and servers, all the way to even have a clock, which I can't wait to hear about. So there's a lot of really good products that you guys have, and I can't wait to hear about those. But tell me a little bit about, since I'm unfamiliar and a lot of people out there watching may be kind of unfamiliar, tell me a little bit about Silent Angel and their history and stuff like that.
Yeah, so Silent Angel as a brand started about 10 years ago in Taiwan. And then we moved the research and production to southern China and Shenzhen in the past few years. And now we are moving the major operation to San Diego in the US as we speak.
Wait, so you're going to be, are you going to be manufacturing in the US?
We've been doing some pretty soon, not immediately, but we are in the process of moving some of it to the States, yes.
That's amazing. That's really good. There's not a lot of companies out there that build or manufacture or do anything. A lot of companies don't do anything in the U.S. That's actually really exciting that you guys have decided to do that.
Yep. Well, you'll be taking some time, maybe a year. Right now we're moving to productions in Taiwan and somewhere else besides the mainland China. So I believe at the end of this year or early next year, we'll be doing some of the productions in the States.
And Taiwan's also, there's a lot of hi-fi companies that, have manufacturing facilities in Taiwan. A lot of good hi-fi, really good hi-fi comes out of Taiwan. It really does. There's some manufacturers that I work with all the time where they have their own factory in Taiwan. It's really good products and everything, and then going to the U.S., even better. That's amazing. But tell me about, give me an overview of the products that you have.
Sure. So Silent Angel started, doing the HiFi business early in about 2019. So that's when we decided to go into this business in about 6 years ago in 2018, when we found that the industry is moving towards the digital era. So everything, I shouldn't say everything, most of it, the music will be delivered through the online streaming in the near future. I mean, when we were observing that, people be living it, but people are still probably playing with CDs more than streaming at that moment. But we decided that this is the direction we should move into because most people will be using streaming audio in the future. However, even though there are some products that does really good, digital music playback and stuff like that, but the overall playback quality is really poor because the online playing involves not only the player, but also the transmission, also the power stuff, everything. So it's a systematic approach to solve this digital music playback problem. At that moment, nobody was able to do it in its holistic approach. And that's where we come in to solve it, to deliver the CD quality sound through online streaming. That's where we come into.
It's so interesting that you start at the power source, and you start at the network source, correct?
We actually started from networking and then to the power. So the team, the founder team, me and two other guys from Taiwan, we are really we were really the IT guys. We are good at streaming. We are good at networking and storage. I myself was an expert in enterprise storage before I started this company. We found that the networking was mostly for the IT at that moment, and nobody was doing much for the audio world because the sound quality is affected not only by the loss of data, but also by the quality of transmission. So even though TCP's IP protocol does guarantee that you don't lose data, but a sound is a sound. Once it past the moment that you should hear it, it's too late to deliver it again. So that's where we come in to solve these kind of problems, to deliver better sound on the network.
So starting from the network side of things, I think a lot more people are familiar with how the power supply side of things goes to make music sound better. But from the network side, how does a better network connection and a better network product like you guys have, how does that get a better sound?
That's a very good question. As most people know, a good power supply or a good power cable will, improve the sound quality. That's because the sound is really prone to noises in the air and in the line, right? So when the network is, involved in delivering this audio stream, the audio network itself functions as a noise absorber from the air or from the land and all the way to your system. So we need to eliminate those noise that gets absorbed into the wire and then to your system so that your system can perform like without any networking at all. So that's one of the caveat. The second thing is that when you deliver the digital music, you need to have really good timing. You need to deliver the bits, zeros and ones at the right time. So what we say is that you need to deliver the perfect curve and at the right time.
So it's very interesting because you usually don't think about it. You're like network, it'll come in however somebody's using Wi-Fi. But I mean, that's literally the signal. That's how you're getting the signal for the power. And it's not always, it's an afterthought. Like I see this all the time. Like even in like we use, nicer network cables and Ethernet cables and like because it does make a difference coming in. But actually having you make the box, what happens in that box that kind of changes the signal to make sure it's as pure as possible?
Right. So as I explained, there was noise coming through the network wire, right? And so when you have our box actually isolates lots of the noises from the inbound end, and then it regenerates the signal in our box and make it to your box, right? So these are the in and out process. And we have not only the isolation of noises from the input end and output end, but in our box, we actually regenerate the signal that's cleaner to go through your receiver end. That's number one. Number two is that our system is a better way to actually eliminate noise coming from the air as well. We live in a wireless world, right? We have lots of signals coming through the air and also through the, maybe some of your appliances, right, which vibrates and generates some kind of noises to affect your sound. So in this case, the system itself needs to be able to insulate itself from any kind of exterior noises or interferences during the process of regenerating the data for your box. Right. So this is a threefold process, as I try to explain. One is that when it's inbound, you cut off the noises from the inbound port. The second one is that when you regenerate the signal, you need to regenerate it in a clean room, right, without any interference. And you need to have a really good isolation inside your box. You have a really good circuit, really good algorithm to regenerate the packets. And the third one is you need to really have a good timing. So we have our own proprietary clock signal.
So I'm very curious about this. I love the idea of a clock, and it is kind of new to me, but getting the ones and the zeros. So once you get it through the network, now it's at the clock. Maybe the clock goes into the streamer or whatnot like that. But explain the clock, because that's just like a lot of people. I don't know a lot of people with clocks. But lately, I've been kind of going down the rabbit hole of clocks because of what they do to the signal and what it comes back into a better sound, more accurate. But kind of explain the clock for me.
So in the digital transmission, there is always a timing signal together with the data signal that gets transmitted. Right? So when you receive the packet, how do you know this packet is before that one or after that one? So you need to have a clock signal embedded in your back packet in order to determine the sequence of delivery, right? That's number one. Number two is that for the clock, when you include the clock signal in your packets, the more accurate, the higher precision, the resolution of the clock, right? 25 megahertz or 10 megahertz or 100 megahertz. And the higher the resolution, the finer the clock signal, which it will enable the data to be delivered in a finer time frame, much more accurate. So when your box, which receives the digital music from the server end, like Spotify, Cobalt, stuff like that, it can receive the packets in a really, really fine time frame and in the excellent order, such that the work to be done in your box that does the decoding and repackaging of the data can be much less because the transmission is so perfect. If the transmission is not perfect, you can still do a lot of work to actually get it to the way where it was, but a lot of work needs to be done in the receiving end. And we're eliminating that such that the delivery and playback is much more smooth in terms of music delivery. Then in your ear, it directly translates into better sound.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Like the more that I learn about clocks and how important they are to the streaming world, I don't know why not as many people make clocks, because it seems to, and I know clocks are in streamers, like smaller clocks and everything, but a separate clock seems to directly correlate with a much better, more accurate signal where everything is going to be just, better curves and whatnot. Now, once you get in, so the next step would the server or streamer, do they work together, or can you, I guess you could use the streamer without the server, you're just streaming. So tell me a little bit about how the streamer operates.
Yeah, so the streamer does the playback job, right? It can function without a server. The server in our product line, like the one behind me, mostly does the Rune core, right? People really like Rune as a software. So the Rune core serves the music, and you can put the CDs or whatever you like. You download it, the music you purchased in the server, and then your Rune ready device plays it. But the streamer itself, it just basically takes the content from whether it's local disk or your NAS or your server or Spotify and Cobalt, Amazon HD, Apple Music, stuff like that, as a music source to just basically do the interpretation of the content and then do the decoding if you want to do it, right? Most people just do it as a transport. It just plays it and then gets it to the DAC to do the job to do decoding.
Does your streamer have a DAC in it, or is it just the transport?
So you can do both. You can include the DAC logic in your streamer, which make it an integrated box. So it has streaming and decoding capability. But most of the high-end players don't want to have two functions in one. They'll just make the streamer as a transport.
And then, so you operate, everything is Rune capable, right?
The server end is Rune core and Rune bridge, so it can play and it can serve. The client end is Rune ready. It does a playback job. So similar to you have an app runs on your cell phone that plays Cobalt or Tidal music, for example. And so for Rune, it just basically does that with a local server, and then you have a playback device, in your house, two of them in one. In one location.
I don't personally use Rune, but a lot of people that I work with do, and I've tried it from time to time. So I am not a familiar person. So somebody not familiar with the Rune process, the server would be where you would download or store tracks from any source. You could rip CDs, you could purchase songs off of Rune or any source like that and store them in your server. And coming from that, storage server background, you guys make a server, which a lot of people don't actually make their own server. So you have to have, is there anything special about, why would someone choose to go with this server over another one? Is it more built for the audiophile?
Yeah, so our server we call it an audiophile server in a few aspects, right? One is that we use the audiophile components to make the server. For example, this box, right? It's carved out of an aluminum block, right? It's the whole case is just one block of aluminum that's carved out. So, and then we have really good power. Really good clock logics inside to make it function for audiophile purposes, right? That's number one. Number two is that we have our own software. We call it the VidOS. It's actually for Vitality OS, so it's short for VidOS. Our own audio grade operating system does all the playback and the storage or serving work, right? So this audiophile level of operating system is different from the operating system you use at home, like Windows and Mac systems, which does a lot of jobs at the same time, concurrently, and they are optimized for maybe for productivity, not for audio. But for our operating system, we actually eliminate all the unnecessary tasks, and we make it purely for audio purposes only. And then for the playback, we actually have a mechanism to guarantee the playback process is not interrupted by anyone else at all when it does music playback. So this OS is in every box that we sold. It's either a server or a streamer. So the software-wise, we have our expertise. Hardware-wise, we use audiophile grade hardware. And then we use the networking knowledge that we have as well to make the buffering of in and out that's much more efficient and more tuned for audio serving as well.
So rather than like if I just went out and got a server, right, like a Synology or one of these server products, those are really meant for a lot of different functions. And audio is probably not on the top of the list, but yours is specifically made to do audio operations, to work with Rune, and to give you just a higher quality sound in the end without interference.
Exactly.
And you guys have your own app.
We have an app as well. Yeah. So see, our app runs on cell phones and on the iPads and whatever. In our system, we use our VidOS, which is not an Android-based operating system. It's a Linux-based operating system. So it's much better for sound quality because we have full control of what we do in the system. Number two is that it's not really, designed for the task switching, stuff like that for the phone, right? So many of the lower cost or lower quality sound device producers, they use Android systems, which means that their sound quality would not be able to compete with our systems, which is fine-tuned for audio purposes in the software.
I didn't even know that existed. I just figured, because I've played around with Rune, and some of my guys they do Rune, like Tom. He's very into streaming in Rune, and he's always talking it up. For me, it's new, and I think for a lot of people, like I am the Spotify streamer. I'm new to some other services. Some people are letting me try some stuff, and I'm just. I do things very simply, but when I hear the process where, you start with the power, you start with the network, I'm very intrigued by that. I'm very, very intrigued by the network. I know power, but then you get clocks, and now to know that the server is literally made to give you better audio signal before it even gets to the streamer or the box or anything like that. That's kind of a very unique concept. I don't know any other companies that do that. I think that's very, very interesting, and something that, like, once people start using that, a lot of people really may like that because it's another piece that they got to buy anyway that just gives them that more audio file quality signal. So, like, I know you could do the total package, but even, like, a lot of people probably just have servers out there, and there's all this interference in that server. If they could just switch this one piece over, that could make a big difference.
Yes, it does. See, you can run your Rune core software on your PC, on your MacBook, right? You think about all the interference you get in your system, right? So I think it's a good idea to have an exclusive device that just does the job of music serving. That's in our mind.
So would you still connect to that server through your laptop or PC?
You can.
So if I didn't want a computer involved at all, how do I work with that server? Is it just when I pull up the app for the streamer, it knows the server's there?
Yes, you can. So you can have a Rune app, running on your cell phone or whatever, and then it will be able to discover the Rune core itself.
Do you see a lot of people starting to put music on servers compared to streaming? So for somebody that doesn't do that, that might be a new concept. I don't have a server where I put my music on. But what are the benefits that putting your music onto a server or downloading it or ripping your CDs or any of these options? What are the benefits of doing that rather than just streaming?
This has to do with the music appreciation, right? And when you appreciate your music, you not only appreciate the tune, the singing, of the piece of it. You also appreciate the background of that piece of music, how it was written, why it was written. There are lots of information that's associated with that piece of music. In terms of classical music, you will probably be interested in who's the conductor, who's the first violin, right? And so this information is what we call a metadata of the piece of music. And I'm not here to promote any other people's software or whatever, but I'm just using Roon as an example. Roon does a good job in managing all this metadata. So when you play back a piece of music, you can see on the screen a lot of information regarding that piece of music. So that's one value of having a server like a Roon core to help you when you listen to music. So it's a visual and ear consumption at the same time. So number two is that for a server is it's a library. So you can think of a server as a music library. So when you have a library, you need to manage it. You need to use the two-way system to put the books and in order to find it, right? So similar to the physical library, a music library has a lot of organization jobs to be done as well. And that needs to be done locally instead of remotely. Suppose you have a 3,000 piece of CD and you rip them. 3,000 pieces of CDs is a lot of data. How do you find the right song or music to play when you want to? That's number one. Number two, you don't know what to listen to. How do you want your system to recommend to you? Hey, Lenny, I think you are in a really good mood. Let's play some, really fast-paced jazz, right? You need something like that.
And is that something that the server does? It will help categorize and recommend?
Yes, it will. Yes, it will. Yeah.
So you don't need a service at all.
Well, you still need a service if you want to listen to other music. For whatever you have, you ripped from CD, you don't need a service. That's right. But it can only manage your local music. What's good about a server like Roon is that it integrates. It actually merges your local collection and the online collection. The other day I was playing with Roon. I did a Koba's favorite ad, right? I added to my favorite. In my Roon terminal, I can already see it that, the other day Eric listened to this music and it's added to the favorite in the same screen. And so it captures your behavior across music services. Not to say that it actually merges your local data as well, the local music as well.
But somebody could get this and just have a local library of their ripped CDs or downloads, and it'll sort them for them and
yes,
and even recommend. So I didn't even know that was a thing. I thought you had to have a service. So
you don't have to have a Roon to do that. I'm just giving that example as using Roon. You can do this. For our own app, our own with OS, we also do the library management.
So where do you see yourself as far as products or like the vision of kind of the future where the hi-fi market's going to go and how you're going to fit in there? Like where do you see Silent Angel in going forward in the future for product development or anything you can share on that aspect of your thoughts on how like hi-fi is going to change or how you guys are going to be at the forefront of that?
Yeah, so our slogan is music streaming perfected. So we want to do everything possible to make music streaming a perfect experience. We're not there yet, right? But that's at least our dream. So we started from scratch. We added a server, we added a clock, we added a power, and we added a streamer, blah, blah, blah. We may have some other products that's been released in this year as well. So what we focus is purely the digital delivery of streaming music. Right, the delivery includes playback as well. We are not doing anything, not doing much in the traditional, hi-fi gears like the DAC and the amplifier and the speakers. We purely focus on digital only, and mostly in transmission and playback. So we see this music appreciation or delivery approach will be completely digital, probably 5 or 10 years down the road. Right, if all you can get is music from over the air or over the wire, you need to have an infrastructure. That we call it the audio infrastructure. To be specific, it will be audio infrastructure connectivity. So you buy good audio cables, power cables, as a connectivity gear to hook up all the systems, make them function really well. Think about in the networking world, you need network to be part of your connectivity in the audio room as well, right? So it's an extension of your infrastructure from the audio speakers, speaker wires and power cables to networking and network cables as well. So this is what we focus in, and we are going to be doing this part of job for the whole industry and doing really well.
That is amazing. I can't wait to try some of this stuff out, to see you guys at Expona, to get to experiment with this a little bit, because it's so intriguing. The network side of things is I think new to a lot of people, and just going straight digital and getting the best signal possible is, you know, something that's very important for hi-fi in the future, because a lot of people do stream. You know, there's a lot of analog, you know, vinyl and, you know, cassettes and your CDs and everything. But when now that a lot of people are streaming and they want to do it in an audiophile way, and I think what you guys are doing is really going to help that in the entire industries.
Our job is to keep identifying what's missing, what can be done, what hasn't been done, and we do it. So that's our whole company's process, you know, in terms of innovation.
So what are you guys going to be doing at Expona?
Okay, so we have the 2 booths in the expo room, and we're going to be demonstrating our complete product line for the switching part, right? Switching network switches, the word clock, and the power supply, stuff like that. There will be our demonstration of our capabilities. We're also going to be demonstrating our component business, which is our streaming components, like the core components inside the streamer. So we'll be doing part of that as well to enable the other partners to be able to make their own streamers as well.
Can't wait to see it. It's going to be fun. The expo hall is a great place at Expona. Glad to have you guys there. It's going to be a good time. Can't wait to see you. And we hope we see everybody that's watching us out at Expona. It's going to be good. Such a great show, an amazing time. The best show, you know, the biggest show in the U.S.
Yeah, the biggest.
It's just wild. Have you been before?
No, I haven't been there before.
Oh, this is going to be, you're going to be like, Florida. It's huge. Like over 10,000 people. It's crazy. So, but you'll have a really good time. It's a great place to be. But for the Audio Insider podcast, I appreciate you, Eric, for being on the show today and joining us. I loved hearing about Silent Angel. It was amazing.
Thank you.
But for today, that is all I got. We'll see you guys next time.